Let's start off by telling us your name, title.
My name is Angus, A-N-G-U-S, Thompson, T-H-O-M-P-S-O-N, and I'm the pastor of the New Jerusalem Baptist Church.
Can you tell us a little bit about your church?
Yes, New Jerusalem was organized on September the 7th, 1983, in the house of Rena Mae Jet on Central Freeway, and we organized with 13 members. And this was 35 years ago, and the church was our first meetings. A couple of meetings were held in the West Linwood Service Center, East Linwood Service Center, please forgive me, East in Linwood Service Center. And we purchased the old building down the street from us, which was half the size that it is now. We bought that for $10,000, people won't believe it. But they had approached us about buying it, about organizing the church. We didn't have $10. But they said the deal was not to borrow any money from anybody, that they were going to finance it for us. And so we paid for it at $100 a month and bought that and all the land for $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
What year was that?
And what year was that again?
That was in 1983.
1983.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And about how many members would you say you have now?
I would say 400 or 500 members now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, how long has you and your family been here in Wichita Falls? The Thompsons.
Well, the Thompsons, not my wife, but the Thompsons themselves, we've been here since 1956, and we lived in the Kemp Edition. I attended the Booker T. Washington.
That's right.
Yeah. So played football for Coach Irvin Garnett,
Okay.
the greatest football coach in the history of the city of Wichita Falls.
That's right.
Bar none.
When did you graduate?
I graduated in 58.
58.
Uh-huh.
Okay. When did you get into ministry?
Probably about 40, almost 45 years ago. I was ordained, I was licensed and ordained at the Greater St. Mark Baptist Church about 45 years ago. And preached for a year or so, some at Antioch to fill in, and of course at the Greater St. Mark. Then I was called to the Macedonia Baptist Church in Quanah, Texas. And I served there, we served there for 5 years, my wife and I and our children. I said we, because she had to put up with me. And the kids had to endure. When you as a preacher traveling up and down the highway with small children, they have to endure, one another and have to endure us. And so we stayed there about 5 years, and we got the call to organize here in Wichita Falls, as I said, and we've been here ever since.
Okay. You also have done some work in the community. What type of work did you do in the community or with the city? And did you have a title with the city?
Yes, but let me. Oftentimes we to really appreciate what one does. I don't think we really make it by ourselves. Right. We are made by other folk, and we're shaped by other people. What happened was in 58 or so, somewhere thereabouts, I got involved with the NAACP. I was a youth chapter president, and especially I want to give credit. Of course, she's gone to glory, to Margaret Davis, and she got me involved in working with the NAACP and Reverend Bradford and others. And like I said, we're shaped by the people we associate with and people who take an interest in us, because really by ourselves And oftentimes we like to give ourselves credit, but that really is not completely true. Not completely true. When I was growing up, the East Side was such a compact area where people had ways of influencing you and shaping you, whereas we don't have that today, but we had that then.
Right.
So, so that's how I got started, working with the NAACP.
Okay.
And of course, I served on the city council. I served on the city council for 12 years. I served as mayor pro tem. And then again, as I said earlier, it's due to the shaping of other people.
Mm-hmm.
I had worked with the Linwood Service Center as a volunteer. You know, I'd been a part of their group and got ideas. And then being involved with the ministry, I was a member of the East Side Ministerial Alliance.
Okay.
And we had been involved in trying to picket some stores like Big Nine and trying to get jobs for black people and so forth. And the ministers were involved in helping to get me elected. But by the same token, I was able to do some things, and we were able to influence one another. And so whatever was done, the involvement was because of the input from them and from the community.
Right.
Yeah.
When you said picket, you mean actually going?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. It's like I said, it's somewhat different now.
Mm-hmm.
We had not only a Big Nine store, grocery store. We were trying to get jobs for our people. For example, not only Big Nine, but at Safeway. There was a Safeway store now where the Beacon for the Light of the Blind is. It used to be a Safeway grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
We had some people that picketed that.
Wow.
Yeah, and across the street from that was the Piggly Wiggly store. Yeah. And believe it or not, those stores were there and no blacks worked there. I think, I'm trying to think of Emily Woodard. I think she was the first one hired. She and Jesse Williams to work as cashiers.
Wow.
At those stores. Now, of course, Brother Williams had his job before we got involved in trying to push for others.
Mm-hmm.
But that was back in the day when we had overt segregation, where you could obviously see it. Of course, we have it now. But now it's not quite as obvious, and sometimes we are conditioned to overlooking it. For example, when we go into stores now, we see, sometimes we don't see cashiers who look like us or people who are working there who look like us. But for some reason, we're conditioned not to protest that as much as we did, say, 30, 40 years ago.
Can you talk to us about your experiences growing up in Wichita Falls as a kid? You know.
Yes.
Some of the and time frames exactly.
Okay.
Some of the experiences.
Had some good experiences growing up. As I indicated earlier, in the Kemp Edition, had some good experiences, and at that time, Kemp Edition to me was all of East Side. Yeah. Because it was almost self-contained, and you didn't have to go across town. But however, we did go because there was a movie on Flood Street. There was a theater on Flood Street, so you couldn't always stay in the Kemp Edition. So we had to go to the movies on Flood Street. And the movie theater was owned by Anna Roark, and she was a chiropodist, whatever. She worked with on your feet. I guess it's the right way to pronounce the words. But she worked on your feet, and she was a woman ahead of her times. She was the first black woman to have an office downtown. But we would go to the theater there. But growing up in the Kemp Edition was a pleasant thing because we had role models and people that we could emulate, people we could look at and look up to. That was good. Another thing too, in growing up on East Side or in the Kemp Edition, there were people who were able to organize, able to get things done, that you assume that you would do also when you became a man or a woman, or when you became mature. you never envisioned that they would go away or that you would not be able to step in and take an active part in community life. But going to Booker T. Washington, that was a very positive thing, because the school was almost the center of the neighborhood. The school and the church, they were the centers of the neighborhood. And it was always pleasant when your teachers knew your mother, and that was always good. It was always good when you played football and you had someone in the stands calling your name. So it was a very pleasant experience.
Who were some of your mentors or role models?
Well, certainly Mr. Jackson, Semerson Jackson, was one of my role models. And let me share this with you. I remember that Mr. Jackson was almost a politician. And I would be late sometimes getting to school. Because if you were late, you had to go to the office. And I would go to the office, and I would have I thought, a good excuse, one that I could explain to him in a very logical way that would make him understand that I was trying my best. And he would look at me, he would just look, and he would put his head down, look at his glasses. He said, "Well, Thompson, that's a bunch of be on time." So it was a good experience. Of course, Reverend was again one of my role models. I remember, Mr. Burnett. I tell you what, I had problems with algebra. Otis Polk, and a lot of people think of Mr. Polk as being the principal of Kirby Junior High School. That was all that he did. Well, I remember him when he just gotten out of the service. He was a young man, and some of us were almost as old as he was. But he had been in the service, and what he did was, to make sure that we understood who the boss was, he would wear his lab jacket. He taught chemistry. He'd wear his lab jacket to the class, and he would almost act as though he was from another world. And of course, we were intimidated listening to Mr. Polk talk. He thought, hey, he got to be crazy. But he taught us, the periodic tables, and gave us some insight about chemistry. I know some of my classmates went on, and of course they majored in chemistry, but he was a great teacher.
Awesome. You have any stories as, of course, on city council that you want to share with us? Your experiences being a city councilman and
and again, before becoming a city councilman, let me share this. Again, I mentioned this earlier, that we're never really who we are, make it all by ourselves. I remember a man, of course he's dead and gone now, James Williams. A lot of people don't remember James Williams. But James Williams was a politician. He was a politician. Bar none. He was a politician. We don't have politicians who live on the east side now. We don't have that.
right.
We don't have people who have agendas, who can organize agendas and push agendas. And I learned a lot from James Williams. And when I got on the city council, my thought was to have an agenda, have a program that you want to push forward. And of course, being a preacher also had the preacher part of it. The first thing I heard on the city council was, look here, that's what someone said. We didn't come here for church. We didn't come here for church. No.
Wow.
Yeah, that was right off the bat. So I decided, well, no, we're not going to do church, but there's some things that we're going to do. And some of my experiences on the city council, I found out was that we're not always positive. We had to fight for whatever we wanted for East Side. And sometimes we were successful and sometimes we were not successful.
Right.
But I learned, again, from James Williams, that sometimes what you have to do is you have to look at the overall picture of what the city needs and what the other councilmen need. And then what we'll do is, if you take care of the people in my community, I'll do what I can to help the people in your community. It had to be like that. So that was the way we operated.
Yeah. Do you know any stories that you could tell us about prominent people or people from Wichita Falls, or even passed through Wichita Falls, that has influenced the East Side? We've heard some stories of Charlie O'Ferris. I even heard a story of a young lady that was second, or supposed to have been on the NASA team, that was writing for the first moon voyage. And so, do you know any stories like that of anybody from Wichita Falls?
Yeah. Of course, I remember Charlie O'Ferris. I remember her office was on Park Street. It was on Park Street. Certainly, she was very influential, you know, in our lives. But here's something that I want to go back to Dr. Roark. She and a lady by Mrs. Flaggs. Mrs. Flaggs was an insurance sales person for, I believe it was Atlanta Life Insurance, and she was one of the secretaries for the NAACP. But Dr. Roark struggled. She struggled to build her businesses. As a matter of fact, she built the hotel on Flood Street. She built the theater. And she used to talk to me about the things that she went through and how she was abused sometimes by some of our own people. She borrowed some money from a gentleman, and in borrowing the money, he was a loan shark. He later left and went to Las Vegas. But she had some problems with the people that were going to evict her from the hotel. He had threatened to kill her and so forth. But that made an impression that she had given so much, and yet, in spite of that, she lost it all. Then her brother, Emmanuel Davis, Overpass is named after Emmanuel Davis. That was her brother. Mr. Davis owned a bottling company where they made soft drinks, and night riders came and busted up his equipment. Because he wouldn't sell out to them. You know, just things like make drinks similar to Coca-Cola, or some kind of those kind of drinks. That's what he made. Wow. And in his latter days, Mr. Davis ended up cutting lawns. Cutting lawns. He should have been a millionaire.
Wow.
But that was the price that he paid for blackness in the city of Wichita Falls.
Wow.
He should have been a millionaire.
Wow.
But instead, in his latter days, he ended up pushing a lawnmower.
What are some of the major differences? Of course, we know that there are some of the major differences now than when you were growing up on the East Side or in Linwood.
This is different. It's night and day. When I was growing up, the neighborhoods were compact. People who were leaders lived in the community. Doctors and lawyers and teachers lived in the community. They were not scattered. Drugs did not infest the community the way they do now. What has happened now is the community has been split. People have moved out to other areas of town. A lot of them have other areas of town. They moved from one ghetto to another ghetto. They moved from one project to another project. That's what they've done. And people who could provide leadership have moved out of the community. We had organizations, as I said earlier, that helped to set agendas and push agendas.
Right.
Churches used to push agendas. When the schools were integrated, Reverend Jenkins, he was the pastor of the Anderson Chapel Methodist Church. He was involved. Those people were involved in having to push people and push agendas. We don't have that now.
Right.
And if you don't have people pushing agendas and training people, you get what you get. you get what you get.
Have you personally ever experienced any racism here in Wichita?
I think all of us have. Whether you're 5 or whether you're 50 or 60, you've experienced racism.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some painful things. When in the Navy, I worked in public information. That's what I did. And I remember when I got out, before I got out, I sent my application and resume to several prominent, I won't call the name of the institutions.
Mm-hmm.
One gentleman told me, he said, Anglo, he said, I need to get somebody to give you a recommendation. So which meant I had to get a black prominent citizen to give me a recommendation. I went to this man's house and talked to him. And of course you would have thought that I was asking to be the Secretary of Treasury, as much information as I wanted. He was rather reluctant to recommend me. I never violated any laws. I never received a traffic ticket. I paid my bills on time, but I couldn't get into because he didn't want to stick his neck out. Then another situation where I had applied and sent it in, and I won't tell you where it was because you would be surprised. Because this man's granddaughter, when we picketed Safeway,
Mm-hmm.
she was involved. It was
Mm-hmm.
Anglo. She was involved. His granddaughter was. But he owned this place. But the gentleman that I talked to, he said no, I won't hire you.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but I will hire you to haul rocks in my boathouse.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that was a crushing experience, but it didn't destroy me.
Mm-hmm.
It was crushing. And most of us have said, really, you can't be serious. I said, yeah, I do that. So I'll hire you to haul rocks. I'll hire you to haul rocks.
In your opinion, what can we do about some of these prejudices and racism?
Well, I think we have to love. We have to look beyond, lift ourselves beyond, spiteful things and things that are humiliating that's being tossed at us. We have to look beyond that, because after all, I think poor people of all races have more in common than they have that divides them. We really do.
Mm-hmm.
And what racism does, racism blinds us to the fact that we have needs that are unmet. And we hold on to race as a remedy. And race won't feed you. It used to be if you were white, that would give you a leg up.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be, but in the age in which we live now, it won't give you a leg up.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be that it would make you first in line. But not now. Not now. And you see these youngsters who are now in the alt-right, and what they're doing is they feel like they're being marginalized and that they're being left behind and they're being pushed aside. But what we have to do is say, look, come on, brother, come on, sister, look, we got a lot in common. Let's work together to solve the problems that we're faced with. Racism is alive, and it's doing pretty well. But it will not sustain one. It won't put food on the table. It's not going to bring jobs back. It won't do it.
Right.
But politicians wave racism, the racist flag, to keep people divided. That's what they do.
Right. Mm-hmm. What are some of your most memorable moments here in Wichita Falls?
Tell you, in spite of some of the bad experiences that I've had, one of the best experiences is this. I had applied for a job at Region 9 Education Service Center. It was a job for a public information officer. Because of what I'd gone through, I said, well, they're not going to hire me. It's not going to happen. I said, it's just not going to happen. You can go through bad things so much you say, well, it's not going to happen. But I said, I'll go through the motions. And their office was located on Harrison Street. Is Harrison or Harrison?
Harrison.
Harrison. And I went out and looked. I couldn't find it. I was relieved. I was relieved. Because then they wouldn't have to say no. They wouldn't have to tell me no. And I wouldn't have to be rejected. I couldn't find it. I went home and I told my wife, I said, I couldn't find it. I'm not going back anymore.
Hmm.
She said, try one more time. Just try one more time. I went out, I looked, and to my horror, I found it.
Hmm.
I found it, and I said, well, heck. So I don't want to lie and tell her I didn't find it. I said, I found it. And I went in, and the secretary, she said, look, we've been waiting on you. We've been looking for you. And the gentleman's name was Dr. James McBride.
Hmm.
He was a lawyer, James McBride. He said, we've been waiting on you. We were wondering if you'd given up on us. And I got hired as the information officer director for Region 9 Education Service Center. And that balanced out the bad experience.
Right.
You know, we have some good experiences and we have some bad experiences. We really do in life. But the thing is, we cannot let bad things crush us.
Right.
They can hurt us, but not crush us. We have to get up and rise again. We really do. And the things that are good, we have to hold on to those, because when the bad things come, it will give us something to rally around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that was one of the best experiences I've had, and I never will forget that experience. With the Region 9, we went to places I'd never heard of. Mm. Because you had to go to different schools, school districts. I'd never heard of those places. But yet I was able to go and able to stay there until I started to work for the Community Action Corporation. Wonderful, wonderful experience.
Okay. What are some, or give me one inspiring quote or?
I think one of the most inspiring quotes I've ever heard was from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, if you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. He said, but for heaven's sakes, keep on moving.
Yes. I heard this quote from you one time, and several other leaders in the community. Wichita Falls, the city that faith built. What does that mean to you?
I think when we said the city that faith built, people came to Wichita Falls. A lot of them came from different other parts of the country. I remember when we came here, everybody seemed like they had migrated. I didn't know anybody born in Wichita Falls. Same thing with Anglos. They came from Arkansas and from Tennessee and other places. Wichita Falls was not a slave-holding area. Now, part of East Texas, of course, they did have slaves and so forth. They were coming from Alabama and Georgia and so forth, trying to get away. Then they settled in East Texas. But people who came to Wichita Falls, they came oftentimes black and white with nothing. Wichita Falls was Indian territory. This was Indians settled, hung around. And people who had to build a living, build a house, build a family, they had to do it built upon faith. Had to do it because of faith. They didn't have any largesse, any kind of wealth, other than the Wagners and people like that, and Burnett's, people who own those big ranches. But most people came with nothing at all, nothing but hope, nothing but faith. They built the city.
Okay. I'm 42 years old, and if you could go back somehow to your 42-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself now, knowing now?
I think if I could go back, if I could turn the clock back, if I was 42 years old, what I would tell myself would be to hang on to your dreams and pursue your dreams a little bit harder. Don't be thrown off course by the situation that you'll be faced with. I think that's what I would have done.
Great advice.
Oftentimes when you're young, you don't always see, you think you want to do this and that, and some things throw you off course. But as you get older, you say, man, I should have stayed with that. I should have. When I was a youngster, I wanted to go to law school. That's what I wanted to do. But unless I went to Baylor, because Baylor was a segregated school, I would have to leave the state, go to, that's the only way I could be a lawyer. But that was my original dream, was to be a lawyer. But when I thought about it, I said, can't do it. Can't do it. no such thing as can.
Right.
No such thing as can.
That's good advice.
But we look back, 40, 50 years later and say, what I wanted you to do, I should have done.
Oh, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Well, I just thank you for the opportunity, but let me say this. I think that we need to get re-engaged. We need to engage our young people, those who are left, and to try to get them oriented into the direction of serving our people and serving the community. And some of the things that we did learn as far as organizing, we did need to get organized again, organizing our people. Used to be a time when in the church we taught voter registration, taught voter education. We don't do that anymore. And if you have a populace that's ignorant to voting and to taking care of themselves, we'll have the situation that we got today, where we're receiving what we prepared to receive. That's what we're going through. But we need to get our people involved again. And we need to, I preach as hard as anybody else. I think I do. But we have to teach our people, look, we got to live before we go to heaven. Got to live before we go to heaven.
Right.
We have to get along with other folk.
Right.
And we have to hold offices before we get to heaven.
Yeah.
We got to work before we get there.